Can we disconnect from the screens and I'll answer the questions?
Yes.
Or you can do it through my computer?
Yes, maybe it would be good, better a second computer. Yeah.
Thank you.
Please.
A little technical information. If you give us about 5 minutes, 5 to 6 minutes, we'll be back with you shortly. Only if we are out of the
Yeah, I cannot stop him.
Okay, then let's hear.
You have the timer? Yeah. I can lose the timer, it's fine, so that I can open the timer.
On the mic?
Yes. Wait.
Sorry.
It's on.
Okay.
I can hear you. Let's see to share the screen.
Oh, I need to share the on the WebEx, right?
WebEx.
Oh, this one. Right. Well, thank you everyone. Sorry to keep you waiting. Thank you again to all the judges that are present today, and welcome also to the students. Some of you have traveled quite the journey to get here. Well done on getting here, and well done on getting here both in person but also through the rounds of the debates that you've had since February, really. You have passed the group phase, you have faced all the teams in your group, you have passed each elimination round that was in the second phase of the competition. Well done on that. And thank you, big thank you to judges, some of you who have already perhaps known the teams from the previous debates. As today we have the panel for the final as always, so some familiar faces, maybe this time in person. All right, well, without further ado and without keeping you waiting for a long time, I just want to formally open this final for the Hague Inter-University Law Debate Tournament edition 2024. This year we had a theme focusing on the interconnection between the regional, national and international legislations, approaches, collaboration between different organizations and nationals and countries. You have debated topics ranging from international spaces to environmental law. Today on the anti-money laundering topic, that connection with data protection perhaps as well. So really it was quite a journey. I hope it was pleasant. I hope you learned new things and you met interesting people along the way. Oh. So there have been quite a few teams that you have interacted with, you have clashed your wits against, learned from, maybe experienced what their student life is like. And just a few on the pages behind me, so you can see the team from University of Akureyri. They have participated for the second time. University of Melbourne that have participated again after their first participation in our very first in-person final, that was in 2021. University of Lusaka, you are seeing yourselves on the screen as well. But for those of you, that's the team that's sitting in the middle. Of course, University of Antioquia that were defending their champion position from the last year. As well, we have University of Birmingham that had their first participation. Princeton University team, you can also see yourselves on the screen. So it really was quite a challenge, quite a combination of faces, cultures, experiences throughout the competitions. And just a little progress. So you can see on the back on the screens again, you can see the progress only for the second part of the competition. There are quite a few matches for you that you've had that we couldn't really fit on the screen. So as we have the progress for the teams that made it to the final, the Lusaka team, you have faced Monash University in the semifinals. Before that, you have faced University of Manchester in quarterfinals. Monash team, you have faced Birmingham in your quarterfinals and continued on with Lusaka to now match for the third place that will be taking place soon. Princeton University, you have had quite a journey as well. You have matched against the University of South Pacific that will be fighting for the first place in a short while, as well as University of Antioquia from their first spot from the last year. So really, for the first time participation, well done to both teams. For the placement for the teams that have not made it to the final match, it was the State University of Tetova that placed at the 28th place, Catholic University of Lille that placed at the 22nd place from France, Strathmore University placed as 27th from Kenya, from Iceland University of Akureyri placed at 26th. It was the THIULDT that placed on the 25th from Estonia for their second participation. University of Botswana placed at their 24th. Masaryk University from Czech Republic placed at 23rd. Kathmandu University from Nepal returning participations placed at 21st. Luarasi University placed at the 20th place. University of West Indies joining us from Trinidad and Tobago. Last year they were also here with us for the final, placed at the 19th. King's College London placed at the 18th from UK. University of the Republic returning participation from Uruguay placed at 17th place. University of Chile placed at the 16th and now marks also the cut-off moment from the 16 places that are secured for the next edition for their universities. In this group is also University of Melbourne, Australia, which placed at the 15th. University of Lagos from Nigeria returning participation at the number 14. University of Manitoba returning participation again, number 13. The Hague University of Applied Sciences, champion, recurring participant, and also one of the many universities that have also internal competition of this format, is placed at the lovely 12th. University of Antioquia, that was defending their title from last year, placed at the 11th place. At 10th place is returning participant University of Bologna of Italy. At 9th is the THIULDT University from the Netherlands. At the 8th is University of Manchester from the United Kingdom. 7th University of Bulgaria, Sofia University, St. Clement Ochridsky. At the 6th place is University of Western Ontario, Canada, returning participant, and as you can see, every team that has a little asterisk behind in their name is the champion of one edition or the other. University of Birmingham placed at the 5th place. And today we'll find out which team will place at the 4th, which team will place at the 3rd, which team will place at the 2nd, and which team will place at the 1st spot. What we'll find out today is also who would be nominated as the best speaker, or possibly speakers, from the final matches. Not big pressure to our judges today. You have a challenge. They're all good. Right. And without further ado, I would like to give the floor to Professor Lorange, with whom we founded the competition in 2015, and without whom the competition so far wouldn't have made such an impact and such a growth that was possible. Professor Lorange.
So, bonjour, hello everybody, welcome in the Netherlands, in The Hague as well. Thank you for the very long trip you have done all the way from your countries in Saudi Arabia, in Zambia, in Australia as well. So many thanks as well to everybody watching. So yes, today we want to mention as well this match is important as well for the participating universities, simply because for some of them it will be the first time, for some others like the University of Lusaka, the second or third time you're participating. So this is the reason why we want to keep track of course, all the participations of all the universities who participated. Here you see the ranking of the universities who have participated until now, and of course we are not at that stage anymore of the competition, so meaning until the quarterfinals and semi-finals. So as you can see, we have 4 winners of this competition, the University of Applied Science, the University of Antioquia last year, the University of Western Ontario, and Dom Helder Law School in Brazil. So we have one winner for 2021 this year, actually, for the University of Applied Science. And as you can see as well, this will help for each part of the world where the world universities were participated to continue to capitalize through the years with the results obtained by the different teams per university. For this reason, we thank everybody, of course, for joining this competition for 7 editions already. This year I see the 7th one. And of course, we hope for the best to all the teams, of course, to continue to build on the efforts of the previous teams per university. So welcome again, and of course now I give the floor to the debaters who have prepared for 7 days these topics. So my colleague will announce the finals.
Yes. So it's not too unusual for you switching from virtual to in-person. I will remain your host for today's session. So today's theme of the round is the international legal diversity. One of the topics was provided one of the partner organizations. That is the topic for the match for the first place. You'll also hear a message from the organization at the end. And thus, without further ado, match for the 3rd place. Prince Sultan University debating against Monash University. The 2 debating teams you have prepared on the topic anti-money laundering efforts necessitate the interconnection of beneficial ownership information in national registries on an international level, with access available to all stakeholders and public institutions, which should not be outweighed by concerns over financial innovation and privacy. So you had 7 days, you prepared?
Yes.
Okay. We've also learned why edge is important. So, as always, 4 possibilities, 2 for each team. All right. Well, it will be Monash University debate team that will argue against the position, and it will be the Princeton University team that will argue in favor. You will have, as always, now 5 minutes to finalize your preparations, and afterwards it will be the team of TSU that will start in first. Yes. Yes, you can join them. Thank you, everyone. The time for final preparation is now over. We'll be passing the floor also to the WebEx, so I'll just stop sharing the screen. Okay, good. Yeah. It was hidden under the web camera. All right. In that case, it will be... Okay, so the speaker will be highlighted for the team that is participating in hybrid format. We have also timekeeping today, so it will be with our student volunteer, intern of the COREX Foundation, Mr. Leo. So again, when you will have 30 seconds left, he will show you a yellow screen on the computer, so just keep an eye out. And when your time is up, you will see a red screen. And thus, without further ado, it is the floor of the Prince Sultan University team. You have 4 minutes for your opening statement.
Yeah, okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed judges, and respected opposing team. Today, I stand before you to advocate for the necessity of interconnected beneficial information on national registries on an international level. This is a crucial measure in our fight against money laundering and illicit financial activities. These efforts should not be outweighed by concerns for financial innovation and privacy, and I'll tell you why today. We will cover 3 main points: the legal framework supporting anti-money laundering, balancing privacy concerns, and concerns for financial innovation. Anti-money laundering, or AML, as I shall be referring to it from now on, efforts are critical for combating financial crimes, including money laundering, terrorist financing, and tax evasion. Central to these efforts is the transparency of beneficial ownership information. This information identifies individuals who ultimately own legal entities, and it ensures that those individuals who are creating the financial transactions are known to the relevant parties involved. We push for the creation of international registries that keep track of this information and these people. Our world is becoming increasingly more interconnected, and sadly, so are the crimes. The legal framework for anti-money laundering, or AML, consists of international standards, regional regulations, and national laws. Firstly, concerning international standards, the Financial Action Task Force provides comprehensive international framework for covering customer due diligence, reporting mechanisms, as well as intelligence units and how they should act. Secondly, the EU provides regional AML guidelines for member states. This extends the scope of obliged entities and introduces beneficial ownership registries, which I previously mentioned. And lastly, national AML laws apply from each country to country, such as the UK Proceedings Crime Act or the US Bank Secrecy Act, that criminalizes money laundering and imposes reporting requirements. This multi-layered system of international, regional, and national laws all act together and aim to prevent, detect, and prosecute money laundering and terrorist financing. While privacy is obviously a legitimate concern, there are existing legal frameworks that protect individuals' privacy, such as the General Data Protection Regulation and the EU. It ensures that data is processed lawfully, fairly, and transparently, and that individuals have access to their data. However, it's impertinent to realize that public interest when combating money laundering supersedes individual privacy. Courts have historically upheld the general welfare of their public over the individual's privacy. They pursued public interest in things such as national security and crime prevention. Finally, on the topic of innovation, transparency and beneficial ownership does not inherently conflict with financial innovation. Instead, it fosters a stable and trustworthy environment where innovation can flourish so long as safety exists. Clear and consistent regulations ensure that companies understand requirements, and so long as they follow them, they can develop innovative solutions that align with the ALM's objectives. Global cooperation is at the cornerstone of our proposal here today. International registries can foster and offer opportunities for international collaboration between countries, and it allows for them to combat financial crimes on a global scale. This interconnectedness also serves as a powerful deterrent for crimes. If those people who believe that they are being tracked are less likely to commit such acts. In conclusion, interconnecting beneficial ownership information in international registries is essential for creating AML efforts. It enhances law enforcement capabilities and promotes financial integrity. The public interest in preventing financial crimes justifies the need for transparency and for keeping such registries. Concerns over financial innovation and privacy should not outweigh these AML efforts, and we'll be exploring that in today's debate. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your submission. We'll now pass the floor to the team in the against position. You will have 4 minutes for your opening statement, Monash team. Our timekeeper just moved to the middle, so you can see them directly. All right, the floor is yours.
Where's the timer? Sorry. Oh, okay. The timer only starts when I start speaking, right? Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. The course of history has shown us that a government that expands its power often does so in a weird trade-off for liberty, and it's often a permanent shrinkage of liberty that will exist as a result. We don't think liberty is a fungible commodity that's exchangeable for ambitious public goods. Anti-money laundering is an important problem to solve, but the issue in this debate is whether or not all stakeholders or all public institutions ought have access to the kind of information and data that these guys want them to offer. We have 3 arguments. Firstly, on why this policy is an unlawful breach of privacy rights. Secondly, about the harms of this breach on privacy. And lastly, on why this stifles financial innovation. Turning to the first argument, we note that the right to privacy is enshrined in Articles 7 and 8 of the Charter of the Fundamental Rights of the European Union. The ECJ has recognized the importance of privacy in its 2022 judgment regarding the joint cases of WM and Sovim SA versus Luxembourg Business Registers. The ECJ ruled against the requirement that member states must give data access to all stakeholders and public institutions, and it ruled that an interference in privacy must be strictly necessary or proportionate to the objective pursuit. What this case does is illustrates that giving access to all stakeholders and all public institutions as per the topic that they are defending is an untenable proposition, as it is incompatible with EU case law and the Charter of Fundamental Rights. Secondly, the argument we have is about the harms on the privacy laws. 2 harms here. Firstly, mass databases on beneficial ownership are likely to be a massive target for cyber criminals and identity thieves. Governments are often unable to respond sufficiently quickly to such attacks. This means that the more you amass data in a singular spot, the more you risk a cyber attack of massive proportions that have a massive impact on people's lives, and that's something that we ought prevent. Secondly, because illegality is deeply defined by imperfect governments, this leads to human rights abuses, especially in authoritarian states. This is already the case in places like China, where pro-democracy activists are often designated as terrorists or extremists, and human rights NGOs are designated as money laundering agencies. In those contexts, activists can be accused of money laundering for activities such as receiving foreign donations. This was the case for a Hong Kong student activist, Tony Chung, who was sentenced to 3 years in jail precisely because of this. In fact, such cases are not unique to the authoritarian states. They can and do exist everywhere. For example, in the United States, some states actually criminalize divestment from Israel. And it would be absurd to empower laws that blatantly interfere with private decisions for individuals. Turning to the last argument on how this stifles financial innovation. The standardization of financial practices for national databases will be incompatible for many countries in the global south that rely on innovating novel financial systems that are unfamiliar for the West. M-Pesa is an example of this, and M-Pesa is used by Kenyans. This is a service that is a mobile banking service that doesn't even require you to have a bank account. M-Pesa is a product of financial innovation. It exists because of the lack of such onerous regulations that stifle financial innovation. And accessibility to financial services for people in the global south remains a top priority, and we ought actually prioritize it in line with the UN's SDGs. A government that is big enough to give you everything you want is a government that is big enough to take away everything that you have. That's a power that we ought to oppose.
Thank you very much for your submission. This now ends the openings of the both teams. We'll now proceed to the rebuttals. Starting with the team in favor, Prince Sultan University, you have 2 minutes.
Oh, I pressed something. Sorry.
No, it's fine. There you go.
Okay. First and foremost, the proposition thanks the opposition for their proposal. However, we deny it by the base significance of what privacy actually means. Privacy of security does not mean the breachment or the profiling of individuals. It simply means creating a database that safeguards our governments. You said our governments are imperfect. That is what the UN works at creating. It works at creating peace and frameworks that make other governments perfect. So yes, in the case of racial profiling of such individuals in our countries, we want to create that database to fend for them, just like we want to create these databases to fend from them. That's the first response. The second response is that not all public institutions need that type of request or that type of access to such big frameworks. However, according to the UN Convention Against Corruption, Article 32, Part 2 says that this is a direct indication that money laundering is of high importance and is more important actually to safeguard societies from individuals. It is more likely to occur than it is to occur of profiling in this scenario. Lastly, what we call cyber attacks. Well, in the case of Thomas versus Strauss, United States District Judge, the settlement required a specific bank to pay $425 million for customer benefits and $1 billion to upgrade their security and ensure that it's safe enough to safeguard the customers as well as provide these informations needed to other states. The United States under the Patriot Act enables banks to share customer information when there is suspicious money laundering. So what we're saying is cybersecurity, money laundering work hand in hand to safeguard societies in total. Disregarding them by saying, well, it stops innovation is simply disregarding the safety of societies rather than anything else. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It is now the first rebuttal for the team in the against position. Monash University, you have 2 minutes.
What we heard from the affirmative team was a great argument for the status quo. We heard of a model that talked about regional sharing and the GDPR, but we didn't hear a model defending all states having access to this financial information, all public institutions and all stakeholders. But note that in order to reduce the money laundering and data crime that they wanted to talk about under the status quo, that the affirmative team needed to defend a broader, much more substantive model. And we would note that the fact that they mentioned the GDPR should be applying to the current mechanisms in the EU was a contradiction in their case and was a recognition that privacy should be protected. Because if the GDPR did apply to ultimate beneficial ownership, then the identities of people who own those assets could be concealed with that individual's consent. And this contradiction deeply damaged the affirmative team's case. The outcome of this analysis is that the affirmative team could not defend their burden in this motion and could not prove how their model would meaningfully reduce money laundering and organised crime in our society. We heard a report of the UN mentioning that money laundering was a paramount consideration. But did that report consider the millions of individuals in semi-informal economies like in Kenya who'd be locked out of finance because of standardizations to money laundering because of standardizations to finance and money laundering protocols, or the culture of fear that would pronounce in both Eastern and Western countries, where a government could trace every political donation an individual made, tracing the ultimate beneficial ownership to an opposition party. Or if you chose to pull out of investments in actors that you no longer want to support, whether the government could find that too. This was an impermissible risk that we could not entertain. Thank you.
Thank you very much. For the second round of rebuttal, team in favour, Prince Sultan University, you have 2 minutes.
In the case of not responding to all stakeholders, it is not all stakeholders that our debate is today discussing. In the case of Luxembourg, it showed that all stakeholders having registries is actually within the legal framework. It requires countries to actually have and share and avoid these issues. The legal framework mentions that it's not made by bad governments per se, it is made by the United Nations, and even mentions that the UN Convention in multiple articles. Within this convention that over 190 countries have signed, it shows the importance of this process of creating global registries. As to respond to our contradiction, it is not simply a contradiction, it is an example of life. It is an example from real life that happened and occurred where we used cybersecurity in order to create a registry that showed everyone's information without profiling cases, without showing any type of discrimination against specific individuals. And the case take for example the case of Franklin Gennaro, $36 million were money laundered the scheme. Frank Gennaro, a Harvard-educated Colombian economist, pleaded guilty in 1996 for laundering over $36 million in drug profits for Colombian drug lord, by using over 100 accounts in 68 banks across 9 European countries. But was he ever caught? No. It was only caught when the collapse of a specific bank happened. So we just let this man run wild, creating hundreds of bank accounts when we could have easily detected it if a national registry was there. He would have not run loose to 9 different countries and harmed their societies and their economies with such. Moving forward, there's another case that took place, the case of Sani Abacha, misappropriation of assets required from Switzerland. Sani Abacha, a Nigerian military ruler from 1993 to 1998, embezzled billions. He's a public figure with public funds. How did we not catch this? If there was a public record undenounced to all of us, we would have been able to see this and trace it. It was caught by a machine. Why can't a person have caught it if it was public information? Thank you.
Thank you for your submission. For the second rebuttal in the against position, Monash University, you have 2 minutes.
I don't think anyone disagrees that anti-money laundering efforts are important. What we are saying here as the opposing team is that there has to be a good reason for breaching those rights to commercial freedom and also to the individual's privacy, because often the trend is that those powers are often misused and abused by governments. So the question really is not whether or not it is important and whether or not everyone agrees that anti-money laundering is important. The question is whether that trade-off was justified. We didn't make any arguments about racial profiling, so they must have either misheard or they must have prepared for the wrong argument. What we'll deal with specifically is the claim that this will be effective. And here's where we will flip the argument. The more effective you are at going after high-level leaders for corrupt practices, the more you will have countries in the global south oppose and obstruct this particular system. This means you don't get the level of coordination that would enable for anti-money laundering efforts to actually succeed. How do you think China is going to react to the idea of how some CCP officials might have their ultimate beneficial ownership information released to the public, such that it makes the CCP look like it's not doing the talk on being a communist, redistributive country? That's clearly going to be catastrophic in places like that. How do you think increasingly authoritarian states like Brazil are going to react in these cases? The more effective they claim their mechanism is, the more it is resisted by countries in the global south, where a lot of the money laundering efforts significantly occur in. Why are the lives of people in the global south significantly more expendable for the global north's pursuit of anti-money laundering efforts? That was the critical question that they had to answer. That was the trade-off they had to justify. And because they've not done so, we are convinced that our learned opponent's case cannot stand.
Thank you very much for your submission. This marks the end of rebuttals. We'll start with the conclusion. Starting with the team in favor, Prince Sultan University, you have 2 minutes.
Hello, could I ask for a clarification on the time, please?
Yes, you're audible, but you'll need to speak a bit louder if that's possible. Can you try?
Okay, sorry, 2 minutes?
Yes, 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Can you see? Can you see the timekeeper?
No, actually.
All right.
If
We'll
I
have the
could...
timekeeper in front on this stage then. So
Sorry for the inconvenience and thank you.
No, it's okay. The timekeeper will be in this stage, so the mic on our side is muted, and you'll just see the timekeeper turn the screen. Okay.
Okay. Is the timekeeper there?
Can you confirm if you can see the screen from the second camera?
The screen, yes, okay, that's great, thank you.
Well, that will be your timekeeper.
Okay.
All right, just speak a bit louder if that's possible, and whenever you're ready, you're good to go.
Of course. Am I audible?
You are.
Thank you.
It's on maximum. Yeah, so just closer to microphone if that's possible. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good afternoon, distinguished judges and learned fellow debaters and esteemed guests. Throughout this debate, we made a compelling case for why AML efforts necessitate the interconnection of beneficial ownership information in national registries and on international level, with access available to the stakeholders and public institutions. First, just to quickly skim through what the first speaker and second speaker said, the first speaker was unfortunately mistaking freedom of expression with the right to privacy, saying oftentimes governments infringe upon the liberty of the people, and in those specific cases, those are governments infringing upon rights. So does that mean we can't limit, for example, the freedom to we can't put any legislation on freedom to expression in fear that a government might take advantage of it and do the same? There's the team is making some type of correlation between issues of freedom of expression and issues of pro-democracy protesters like Tony Sung, and with the right to freedom of privacy, which is not the correct stance to have, and it's changing our stance as a proposition to a stance where we're saying, hey, a government should, that we're basically doing this for their, we're basically doing this to give the right to governments to basically take advantage of their roles, and if they do, that goes against the law in and of its essence, and that is not the, we respect this a bit, that's not the correct sense to have. It's a different topic. Also, the proposition's first speaker said something, which is that what if China were to have beneficial owners of the companies? China already has access to the beneficial owners of their companies, and they, in any case, any type of legislation of this sort could be catastrophic in China, any legislation for money laundering, and not just beneficial ownership. So that's the wrong case to mention. And second speaker also said that the recognition of the GDPR damages our case since it recognizes the right to privacy. We recognize the right to privacy, but we believe that it should have limitations for this more important necessity. And that concludes our points. Thank you.
Thank you for your submission. I don't know if you heard, but there was also an applause for you. Now, for the conclusion of the against position, Monash University, you will have 2 minutes.
I thank my learned friends for their arguments. Today, the affirmative team failed to justify why their policy should not be outweighed by the importance of privacy and financial innovation. In line with the Special Rapporteur's conditions for infringing on the right to privacy, they failed to prove that their policy was A, effective, and B, proportionate. The affirmative team never responded to our analysis as to how this policy put global information at risk of a cyber attack, because now every single state included in their agreements becomes a critical entry point into a global system. Secondly, because privacy rights were violated, that now empowered nefarious actors in both the East and West to track individuals and deprive them of their rights to free movement, freedom of expression, and in worst cases, even life. That their policy lays the groundwork for societies where people are afraid to share their views and exercise their political rights, because the right to privacy was important because it was connected to these rights, and that even risking such an outcome was impermissible. We explained the disastrous economic effects on developing countries where the requirements for Western standardized financial systems undermined semi-formal markets, depriving the global south of finance and the ability to lift millions out of multidimensional poverty. In response, we heard a model that never solved the problem, because syndicates could construct their structures to fall under critical thresholds of suspicion, or that criminals could hold their assets under different names with related parties or in jurisdictions that had weaker compliance measures. At best, the affirmative team increased the risk profile of criminal operations by a few percentage points. But this comes with an impermissible affront to people's socio-political freedom and the economic rights of those who are most vulnerable. Thank you.
Thank you for your submission. This now marks the end of debate for the match for the third place. Thank you to both teams for your preparation. We'll now do a very short intermission for the judges to compile your notes, finalize the signing points if you would like to do so. Let's say 5 minutes, if that would be all right for everyone, and then we'll move on to the next match. Thank you very much. And YouTube.
I can hear you, sir. I can hear you. Okay.
That is correct, sir. And so we
Hello, sir. Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you. Pardon, sir? Yeah, it's me, Visha Prakash. Can you hear me clearly? Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Right. Well, thank you, everyone. The little intermission is now over. We'll be soon starting with the match for the first place. For the debate for the first place, we'll be seeing the competition between the University of South Pacific, joining us from the Fiji campus, and also live on WebEx. So this will be a full, truly hybrid debate. And the University of Lusaka, whose team is currently present with us in The Hague for the live panel. Welcome to both teams. Well done on getting this far. You have had, just as the previous debaters, you have had quite a few matches over the course of the months. Well done for both of you. Today's debate will be on the topic that is provided by our partner organization. For the second year now, we would like to thank UNITAR for partnering with us. Same as in previous year, they have provided the debate topics. And if you would like to learn more, and I really recommend you do, they have quite an interesting prospects both for young professionals as well as students and established professionals. Do let us know. We are happy to put you into contact. And thus, without further ado, you already see the topic behind me. So the topic debating today will be the economic interests of oil-producing countries should not outweigh the environmental necessity of reducing plastic pollution under the Global Plastics Treaty. So for today's debate, you again have prepared for the topic 7 days in advance. There are 4 possibilities, 2 for each team. And we'll find out soon which team will defend which position. Right. Well, it is the University of Lusaka that will argue in favor of the motion, and it will be the University of the South Pacific that will argue against the motion. All right. As always, there are 5 minutes to finalize your preparations, and we'll start afterwards with the team in favor. thank you very much. So the time for... sorry. You could hear me on YouTube and live, but not on WebEx. So thank you very much, everyone. The time for final preparation is now over. Starting with the team in favor, the opening statements will be by the team of University of Lusaka. You will have 4 minutes for your opening statements. I'll be your timekeeper for this one. I'll be sitting over there.
We're good to start? Right. Starting in 3, 2, 1. Very good afternoon to you all protocol highly observed. Now, allow us to get into this debate a side proposition, starting by what we deem to be the key definitions that are necessary in order to facilitate this debate. Firstly, when we speak of economic interests, what we're talking about are the financial and economic benefits that countries, particularly oil-producing countries, derive from the production and extraction and sale of oil. Now, when we speak of oil-producing countries, these are nations whose economies are predominantly reliant on oil production. So examples include Saudi Arabia, Russia, USA, Angola, Venezuela, etc. And then when we speak of reducing plastic pollution, what we're really speaking about here is the efforts to minimize wasteful disposal of plastics to decrease their harmful impact on the environment. Now, it's very, very important for us to understand what this debate is actually about when we speak about the key points of contention. What we're speaking about is the economic interests, as we've defined, as well as reducing plastic pollution, and what should weigh more than the other. And here, as a side proposition, we want to tell you what our stance actually is. We're not saying that we want to shelve your economic interests. No, what we're saying is that there should be a balance, but rather, if push comes to shove and we need to make decisions, your economic interests should never outweigh the environmental necessity of reducing plastic pollution. Again, not plastic production, but plastic pollution. Now, we've proposed a 3-point test to analyze this debate through. We're looking ecologically, legally, and morally. And that, at the end of the debate, that's the 3-part test that we will ask this floor to actually consider, and who has actually won this debate. Now, when we speak ecologically, what we know is that there is an urgent need for environmental protection. And now, if we look at the United Nations environmental program, a recent report that they've done stated that only 9% of plastic that's ever been produced has actually been recycled. That means a staggering 91% is actually still in circulation. So that means that there's an urgent need to actually accelerate our efforts to mitigate this, as we'll find with our second and third speakers' points. Now, if we look at the legal ramifications, looking at the Rio Declaration, whether it's the Kyoto Protocol, or the Paris Agreement, what we find is that these key international instruments that we're all very familiar with, they echo the same sentiment. Starting with Principle 3 of the Rio Declaration, it enshrines a right, or rather a duty and a responsibility to protect the future generations. Now, if we follow what the international law says, it's clear what the intentions of the international community is that we need to accelerate the mitigation of these efforts, which cannot happen when we have an issue of conflict and then we say that the economic interests supersede the environmental necessity. Now, if we want a blueprint, we have the success of the Convention on Biological Diversity. This is actually a good blueprint for us to follow because it shows us that international collaboration is actually very important and possible, but we need to realize what our priorities are. Now, when we look at morally speaking, what we find is that the impact on marginalized communities is the biggest concern. It's because it's the people that are in the low income areas that actually pay the highest price. And even if we look at the principles of natural justice under Thomas Aquinas, a famous jurist, then we find that the principles of natural law tell us that without morality there can be no law. So how can we have a moral and just law when in actuality we say that the rights of, or rather the economic interests of these oil-producing nations can ever supersede the environmental necessity to secure the future generations under Principle 3 of the Rio Declaration. And with that, we rest our case.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your submission. We'll now pass the floor to the team defending the against motion, University of South Pacific. You'll have 4 minutes. I would just kindly ask you to speak loudly as we have a small output from the speakers right now. Your timekeeper will be from the second video camera you can see. So this will be your sign for the 30 seconds up, and the same but with yellow screen, red screen for your time up. And without further ado, it's your time. Thank you.
Thank you. May I confirm that I'm audible and visible, please?
You're audible and you're visible. I will just ask the judges to confirm if the audio is hearable.
Maybe a little louder.
Unfortunately, I really think this is a maximum output we have. Right. Can you please try again?
Speak loud, please.
Hello? Hello, everyone.
Yes, good.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay. We stand at a crossroad. The Global Plastics Treaty aims to ban plastic pollution, and there are two conflicting perspectives on how to get there. Environmentalists ask for a complete ban on plastics, whereas oil-producing countries like Saudi Arabia and China are advocating for sustainable management of plastic. As the negative team, we will argue in favor of the oil-producing countries and its people. Bulavanaka to the honorable judges, colleagues, and audience members. We advance the following legal arguments. I argue a circular model approach is necessary and sustainable. Secondly, I will consider the trade and labor restrictions faced by oil-producing countries. Varunesh will argue the issues with practicality, and Visha will argue the clash with national sovereignty. Plastic remains an important commodity. It is durable, affordable, and in demand globally. According to the American Chemistry Association, the U.S. plastics industry generates $371 billion in revenue, showcasing its popularity. The Option 3 scope of the Zero Draft Plastics Treaty even advocates that plastics for medical, emergency, and research uses should not be banned. While plastic pollution is pervasive, the Global Plastics Treaty must recognize the perspectives of oil-producing countries and adopt a circular economic model. This also aligns with the Zero Draft Preamble, which underlines the importance of reusing, remanufacturing, and recycling. According to Option C of the Zero Draft Treaty scope, the need for measures to address plastic demand and its importance of working with the national reality of the state is emphasized. Oil-producing countries should be allowed to produce plastics in a safe manner. Instead, the treaty must expand its focus on how plastic is handled post-production, emphasizing sustainable management and viable alternatives. Secondly, imposing a complete ban on plastics will neglect the labor and trade concerns of oil-producing companies. Oil plays an integral role in producing petrochemicals, which manufacture plastic. As such, plastic production is economically vital for them. In the US alone, around 1 million individuals are employed in the plastics industry. Similar proportionate numbers exist in the other oil-producing countries. If a complete ban of plastic production through the life cycle approach is imposed, it would lead to unemployment and diminished social standards. This would breach recognized human rights. For instance, Article 6 and 11 of the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights recognize the right to work and to continuous improvement of living conditions. Ignoring the interests of citizens of oil-producing countries risks breaching recognized rights of those working in the plastics industry. While the treaty makes reference to a just transition, it does not fully encompass the impact of job losses and that will have on the lived realities of those in the industry. Given the size of oil-producing economies, such shocks would impact both domestic and international economies, further widening the global inequality gap. The treaty may also impose restrictions on trade of certain plastics or products. This could raise concerns about violating the World Trade Organization General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade 1994, which principles of trade, free trade, and non-discrimination, which prohibits quantitative restrictions on imports and exports and requires equal treatment of members. Further, the treaty might generate technical barriers to trade through technical standards of plastics or packaging, and this too may discriminate. To conclude, it is possible to reduce plastic pollution through the Global Plastics Treaty. However, we must do so in a just manner that maximizes the maximum number of people, and that is possible through our stance. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your submission. We'll be now starting the rebuttals, starting with the position in favor. Team of University of Lusaka, you will have 2 minutes.
Affiliates of this here delegation, all protocol observed. The debate in question is not talking about banning the production of plastic. And to prove that, allow us to go, or to guide you, to Principle 4 of the Rio Declaration, which clearly states that economical benefits and environmental protection should work hand in hand. We do realize that almost all surgical equipment is made with plastic. What we are talking about here is plastic pollution. Now, the current speaker from the opposing delegation has clearly stated that plastic is important, and we agree. But every rule or every law does have an exception. Every law student or every lawyer knows that. Furthermore, if we go to Principle 3 of the Rio Declaration, which is clearly stated by the first speaker from the opposing delegation, it clearly stated that we should protect future generations. Now, with excess plastic pollution, members of this house, it means future generations will not be protected. What good is a future if it will not protect its own people? Affiliates of this here delegation. We go to Principle 8 of the Rio Declaration, which says that all states should come up with appropriate policies that are going to protect and to stop or reduce unsustainable patterns of production. Which simply means if we produce things that we cannot recycle, if we produce things and yet we would like to enforce them, members of this here delegation, we should ensure that the economic balance and the environmental balance should work hand in hand. Members of this house, we do agree that the opposing delegation is going to talk about sovereignty. They will come here and talk about how they are sovereign state and they can easily make whatever they want to the economy. However, affiliates of this delegation, Principle 2 of the Rio Declaration comes back and guides us and says sovereignty should work hand in hand with the no harm rule, which means every state should ensure that whatever they make should not harm another state. Affiliates of this delegation, let's please come back to the debate motion at hand and not mislead the House. With these few points, I submit.
Thank you very much for your submission. Now we'll hear the first rebuttal in the against position. University of South Pacific, you have 2 minutes.
Am I audible and visible?
You are.
Distinguished teams, judges, and audience members, I commend my colleagues in the opposing team for presenting their views. However, our team, under the negative stance, respectfully disagree with the points raised regarding the economic interests of all countries being sidelined with respect to reducing plastic pollution under the Global Plastics Treaty. As a point of rebuttal, I would like to point out that the first opening speaker of the opposing team mentioned that UNEP's 9% of plastic is recycled and there is a need to mitigate that. Is there a need to mitigate that or make it more efficient? Additionally, the speakers from the opposing team relied on the CBD and the Rio Declaration when the topic is centered around reducing plastic pollution under the Global Plastic Treaty. It seems like the entire premise is based upon other conventions other than the convention in treaty in question. Additionally, I would like to rebut their arguments on the basis of impracticality in applying the Global Plastics Treaty in oil-producing nations. The petrochemicals used for making plastics are mainly derived from oil. According to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, for some nations, oil is a major foundational source of revenue. This integration supports entire supply chains, from extraction to manufacturing and distribution, thereby boosting the economy and livelihood of its citizens. The draft of the Global Plastics Treaty aims to address plastic pollution through its life cycle. However, there are certain concerns when contrasted with the right to economic development enshrined in Article 1 of the International Covenant on Economic and Social and Cultural Rights. How can nations whose economies rely heavily on oil revenue practically move away from its main revenue source? Especially given the binding nature of the treaty, which would shrink oil demands and negatively impact their economies. This commercially unviable route may lead to a cleaner environment, but with economic and political destabilization, with consumers ultimately paying a higher price. These are the pertinent issues which need to be considered when weighing the economic interests of oil-producing nations with respect to plastics treaty. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your submission. We'll be now passing the floor to the team in favor. So University of Lusaka, you will have 2 minutes for your second rebuttal.
I will be beginning my rebuttal in 3, 2, 1. Members of this respected delegation, I'd like to bring us back to the focus of this debate. This debate is not talking about banning plastic production. The main bone of contention here is reducing plastic pollution. And my pre-current speaker came here and gave you reasons why we need to be focusing on the reduction of plastic pollution. From an ecological standpoint, we're fast reaching a point of no return. 9% of all plastic that's ever been created has only been recycled. And it's been decades that we've been speaking about environmental protection and reduction of pollution. And so, when the opposing delegation came up here and talked about a circular and modern approach, which emphasizes on sustainable production and disposal of waste, of plastic waste, we absolutely agree with them. Because our argument is not that we should ban plastics. Our argument is that we should reduce plastic pollution, and that can be done without banning the production of plastics. And so now, the burden of the opposition is to show why the balance that we are striking or we are proposing, that economic interests as well as environmental concerns should be balanced, should be in equilibrium. And they failed to show that. All they've come up here is to defend the ban of plastic production. And that is not what any of the members from the proposing delegation have stated. So essentially, they've created their own debate and have failed to relieve the burden of proving why we shouldn't have a balance of both economic interests as well as environmental, reducing plastic pollution and environmental concerns. Now, they also talked about trade and labor approaches, and they talked about a GATT, and that's the General Agreement of Trade and Tariffs. And that's why we've come up here to tell you about our tiered approach. We want a common but differentiated responsibilities approach to tackling this problem. So the countries, they talked about countries, less privileged countries or developing countries or developing economies that are going to be adversely affected by environmental concerns. And what we're saying is that we should place only what every economy can handle so that they should be able to fight plastic pollution. And with this, I submit.
Thank you very much for your submission. We'll now pass the floor to the team defending position against University of South Pacific. You will have 2 minutes for your second rebuttal.
Before I begin, am I audible?
You are.
Thank you, madam. Firstly, I would like to thank my counterpart colleagues for their submission. However, they failed to realize one important aspect. The Zero Draft Treaty on the Global Plastic Treaty itself in the document is primarily focusing on the life cycle approach in order to navigate and address global issues. And this process will undermine the economic interest. They have been arguing about banning global plastic, but without any reference of the main global treaty draft in the negotiation. That's first and foremost. And secondly, and since I mentioned earlier that it will undermine economic interest, in that way, it will also undermine the economic development. Because it's simple. As we said, the oil, as explained by the affirmative team in the first speaker, they have mentioned that these countries are heavily reliant on this oil. Their revenues, they're going to help in the economic development. Denying that will actually challenge the sovereign integrity that is under Article 1 of the International Covenant of Economic, Social and Cultural Right, where the sovereign has the right to determine the economic path, and also under UN Declaration on the Right to Development, whereby each and every state can participate and also function and contribute and enjoy their economic development. I do agree with the fact that yes, environmental contributions should be considered, but not at the cost of undermining an economic development potential and their sovereignty. It's important to realize that this new text, this treaty, is primarily focused on, yes, reducing plastic pollution, but the grounds that are is going to interfere with the economic interests. Therefore, we propose for effective waste management. And remember what I'm emphasizing, effective. We need more implementations, more strategies to advocate on these issues rather than focusing on the global treaty itself. Therefore, we must go for a multi-dimensional approach that respects the economic interest, the sovereignty's integrity, and at the same time, the environment, which is why we affirm by the fact that we must consider sovereign integrity and economic development while encouraging environmental protection. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your submission. This now marks the end of rebuttals. We'll now proceed to the conclusion. Starting with the team defending position in favor, University of Lusaka, you will have 2 minutes.
I will be beginning in 3, 2, 1. It is unfortunate that we have to keep on reminding the opposing delegation of some of the key tenets of this debate. Now, they keep on talking about the the ban of plastic production. And again, we want to draw them back to the debate and point out to them that what we're advocating for is reducing plastic pollution. And what we're advocating for is a balance between the economic interests of oil-producing companies as well as environmental concerns, and in particular, reducing plastic pollutions. And they keep talking and referring to the Global Plastics Treaty as if it's already hard law. The reason why we're here is to debate the content of this very treaty. So now we can come up with content for this treaty that is effective. And so that's why we're here talking about this Global Plastics Treaty, because it's still in the process of being made. So we can't quote it as if it's hard law, and we can't quote it as if it's inflexible or it can't be changed at this point. And again, we as the proposing delegation have come here and talked to you about how plastic pollution is fast becoming a really impertinent and significant problem. We're fast reaching a point of no return, and it's a direct breach of all nations' right to clean and safe environments. And so, as the proposing delegation, we've come up here, we've shown you the dangers of plastic pollution, and we've given you a solution, which is to reach a point where we balance the interests of oil-producing companies, pushing them towards a more sustainable way of producing as well as managing waste pollution. The opposition delegation only came up here to talk about the dangers of banning plastic production. And that is not the point of the debate at all. And for those reasons, that is why their argument must fail and we must take the cup. With this, I thank you.
Thank you very much for your submission. We'll now pass the floor to the team defending the against position, University of South Pacific. You now have 2 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for your attention. As our team had negatively argued through a closer analysis of conventions, agreements, and directives, we strongly advocate for economic interests not being sidelined with respect to reducing plastic pollution under the draft Global Plastics Treaty for the following reasons. Firstly, the need for a circular model approach for sustainability. Secondly, considerations of trade and labor, along with the distortions resulting from the drastic shift away from plastic pollution. Thirdly, the impracticality of applying the plastics treaty to oil-producing nations. And fourthly, undermining state sovereignty with respect to economic development. As our first speaker highlighted, plastic remains an important commodity. While pollution is prevalent, there must be a circular model approach which allows production of plastics in a safe manner, in accordance with Articles 6 and 11 on the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. Imposition of complete bans will neglect labor and trading of oil-producing nations, especially with respect to the WTO General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. Moreover, applying the plastics treaty in oil-producing nations may be impractical due to the economic and political destabilization's cost, which might eventually lead to higher consumer prices. Additionally, the Global Plastics Treaty will challenge state sovereignty and limiting economic autonomy and development regarding plastics. In light of the above points, it is crucial to acknowledge the significance of economic interests of oil-producing countries when weighing it against plastic pollution under the draft Global Plastics Treaty. That is our submission. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your submission. Thank you to both teams. Well done. Now the task, no less daunting than you had when you were preparing for debate, is now with the judges to review the scores. We'll have the short intermission, about 10-12 minutes. The students, just give yourselves the timer. You feel free to grab a snack or water. We'll reconvene here. The judges will have the time to review the scores and also will nominate and review the nominations for the best speakers. Afterwards, it will be the announcement of the results. I can see we already have a dear honored guest with us in the WebEx call, so I won't spoil the surprise too much. So in about 10 to 15 minutes, we'll proceed with the announcement of the results for everything. Okay, thank you very much, and see you in 10 to 15.
can hear you as well.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. After the short intermission and calculation of the scores, we are almost ready to announce the results. Just once more from the side of organizing team, I just want to congratulate you all. Everyone really well done. It's been quite a journey. We have also esteemed guests with us that are currently on WebEx. So we have a representative from Oxford University Press who will be wrapping up our event. So to say, the last speaker after we have the first place announcements. And without further ado, I would like to give the floor first to the representative of the jury panel that we had today, Mr. Altomash Khalil and Ms. Linda Beatrice Lewis, who teaches also the law and technology here at The Hague University, who was so kind to host us for a third edition in a row. Thank you very much. And that's all from me that you will hear for this part. I invite Mr. Khalil and Ms. Lewis to the floor.
Okay, so welcome everyone. Both the matches today were really wonderful to watch. You guys did a great job. We're so happy to be here. We learned a lot as well. So the third place in the 7th edition of the Hague Inter-University Law Debate Tournament goes to Monash University. So representing Monash University today is Michael Tan and Joel Law. Please come forward.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Well then, naturally the fourth place goes to the Prince Sultan University, of course. I think it goes without saying that you guys did an excellent job trying to balance a setting of doing it in person and somebody joining online. I think it's a very tricky situation to manage, and I think you pulled it off really well. So massive congratulations to you all, especially given the fact that you also traveled. So massive congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you very much. So we now have the result of the second match that took place. So the match for the first place. I'll be co-announcing the results, so I'll be let's say the first person to hand you your certificates. As the person that will announce the result for the first match will be the esteemed up to date. Apologies for jumping away for a little trick I have up in my sleeve in regards to not tell you incorrect information today. So I would like to welcome among us Director Angus McKay, who is the Director of Division of Planet at the United Nations Institute for Training and Research. Angus McKay is the Director of Division for Planet. Before that, he worked also for a range of international organizations, so quite a range of experience and knowledge, including United Nations Department for Peacekeeping Operations, United Nations Development Program, United Nations, I already said that, apologies. Also the UK Department for International Development, the World Bank, as well as private sector environmental consulting and firms. So I think it's without surprise that the topic that was for the final match came from the from their team. So, Mr. McKay, Director McKay, if you can hear me, the floor is with you. So once you start speaking, you'll be also on the highlight for the WebEx.
Great. Can you hear and see me?
Yes.
Yes.
Very good. Excellent. Well, thank you for that introduction. Yes, I have kicked around rather a lot in my career, but pretty much worked on issues around climate change, the green economy, and what we now call circularity. Let me start by thanking our partners at the Corax Foundation, and I think this is our second year in partnership. It really is a very engaging format, so we wanted to congratulate you for the design and also the seamless execution. So yes, I'm honoured to have been asked to announce the winner of this competition. I've got this tiny little bit of power that I know who won. It's great. It's a great feeling. But I think it's probably the first time that I've actually announced a winner of any competition, so thank you for that. But the honour is clearly yours, together with all those other universities that have participated over the weeks and months, including, I see, my own alma mater, University of Birmingham. So great, well done you Brummies. You didn't do too badly, I think. So that was good to see. The final debate topic on the fossil fuel industry in the context of the new Global Plastics Treaty was, yes, it was indeed proposed by my team. We think it's a great topic because everybody knows what plastics are, right? I mean, you're probably no more than a metre away from plastic. You might even be wearing plastic. Unlike many other global treaties, which sometimes lack tangibility for the majority of people, we think that the plastics one is really very engaging. Because we think that global treaties, if they're going to make a difference, they've got to communicate. And they've got to be understood by the general public to be effective. It's not just for scientists and policymakers. So debates in this format help to unpick and unpack some of that. And the narrative that comes out of such debates can be very useful in engaging more broadly on what's a very important issue. Why is it such an important issue? Because plastics are actually a great thing, aren't they? I mean, look at what they have done to our economies in the last 50, 60 years. Think about the benefits of reducing food waste, for example. Think about the use of plastics in medical procedures. And there are so many ways in which we're dependent upon this resource. But they have also become ubiquitous, far too ubiquitous, if that's a term one can use. And in the absence of any proper controls, we're simply drowning in the stuff, right? So plastic has become a major global public policy challenge, with everything that this implies in terms of winners and losers. And I think I heard quite a bit from the closing statements about that, the economy-wide effects. And then, of course, you need fossil fuels to make plastics, don't you? Including one, I hope you've done your research, but there's one specific fraction in crude oil called naphtha. And this is the basis of the majority of plastics making. And so that scales this debate up considerably because of the economy-wide effects of reducing plastics on a major global industry. Again, I think this was picked up in the closing remarks. More than half, my final thought before I announce the winners is that more than half the world is voting in national elections this year. And politics, as a result, has become somewhat obsessed with not affecting our already struggling economies as they deal with debt and inflationary forces. So the environmental agenda has taken a bit of a hit as a result. Again, I don't want to rehearse all the arguments, and you've done that, but we wanted to communicate to you and with you why we thought that this particular topic was of relevance. So thank you to both teams for taking on the challenge. We hope you found it thought-provoking and useful as you continue to analyse the complex world that we live in. And that's a job for life, isn't it? You'll never stop doing that. Okay, so the moment of truth. I am very pleased to announce the winner of the Hague Inter-University Law Debate Tournament 2024 is the University of Lusaka. Congratulations to you. And I have been actually to the University of Lusaka many times, and they're one of our partners in a great project that we've just started. I'm off there in about a week, so I shall be telling whoever I see that what a great job you've done, but not to forget our gallant runners-up as well. So there we are, handing back to you guys at Corax Foundation. We're delighted to be part of this, and well done to you all.
Thank you, Director McKay. Thank you very much for the kind words. Thank you also to your team for the topic and for the announcement of the results. Congratulations to the two teams. I must say the margin between the scores was very tight for the debate. So well done. Well done. Congratulations. And on that note, allow me to pass you the, your trophies as well. So for the second placement, which is the team from University of South Pacific. Yes, of course, first, sorry. Just a picture first. And maybe one with the certificates as well. Okay, if you can just pass them on. We do have also the certificates for the USP team. They will be shipped to you together with the trophy and a little gift. For the team, there is a little surprise as well. Ooh. Just so you can remember one of the landmarks. Yes. One of the landmarks of the city. You might be able to see it on Friday a bit more.
And for the university in South Pacific, this is as well your trophy. For the second place, to be shipped by post. I hope it will not take 3 months to go to Fiji, but it will come from The Hague directly to you. You will have to give us an address, of course, for that. Yes. Congratulations. Congratulations for Fiji. Yes.
Right. And if I maybe can ask to announce the best speaker of today's debate.
So on behalf of the jury, I would like to thank you again very much. And I think each speaker stood out, otherwise you wouldn't have been here. Otherwise you wouldn't have participated in this competition and reached this stage. However, I do have a certificate here for the best speaker. And so that can only be one person. And so we had to choose, right? And it was, I think, a close call. The program director of the law program, Ms. Moore, holds the trophy. I hold the certificate, and it is for Joel Law.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you, everyone. We are almost at the finish line. So, as you know, we usually close off the sessions with a little networking session. That will be happening in person for the Hague participants shortly. But I would like to pass the floor before we come together for a group picture to one of our long-term partners at the Hague Inter-University Law Debate Tournament since the day one they have been with us, and that is the Oxford University Press. Their team has supported us, and the teams participated since 3 years ago when we moved back into the virtual space and also moved back into the in-person space for the finals. So we do have Ms. Jess Hutton with us today. I would like to pass the floor to you, Jess. If you are with us, when you turn your mic on, you should be also at the focus. Yeah, unfortunately we cannot hear you yet. Maybe if you can switch to your computer audio rather than microphone. Yes, unfortunately not. No, we cannot hear you, unfortunately. Not yet. No. Unfortunately, still no.
Really? No.
Yes, we can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay. Oh, sorry about that. But on behalf of Oxford University Press, I just offer a huge congratulations to everyone who's participated in the competition. A particular well done to the winning team, University of Lusaka. Congratulations, everyone. And I'm sure all of the teams have worked very hard throughout this competition and put in a lot of time and effort into the competition, so well done. And I hope that you're now all able to find time to celebrate your achievements. At OUP, we're so pleased to be supporting this initiative that facilitates a competition that's organised with such passion for equipping this next generation with skills and critical thinking that you need to really make a difference in the world. So we really hope that having access to law trove throughout the competition has been valuable for research in your debates. And all of the additional skills that you've been able to gain throughout the competition, teamwork, communication, research, and many more. We really hope it serves you well in the future. And no doubt, I'm sure that you will have all found this experience of being involved in a competition where you meet and debate with other students across the world invaluable. So thank you to the Cortex Foundation for all of your organisation, and once again, a huge congratulations to everyone involved, and thank you on behalf of Oxford University Press.
Thank you very much, Jess. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone that connected live. Congratulations again to all of you. Thank you very much to our jury panel. Thank you for being with the students from the day one and not for the first edition, that's for sure. Also, thank you to the Hague University, to the International European Law Program that supported us from the very beginning in regards to hosting. And I would like to now close the session on the virtual space and invite you all for the group pictures.
Thank you. I will ship the trophies, huh? Yes. Yes. Congratulations. You are vice champions, huh? So that is something that you will keep for a long time. Many thanks again. Yeah, thanks.